Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube. I'm going to do another video here on Quicken for Mac. I'm going to be setting up some accounts in Quicken Mac today, just like you would be doing if you were getting started using Quicken. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then once the transactions download, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where you go from there, how much of them you keep, what kind of decisions you might make, and how to move on to the next step. So I will see you in the video. I'm Joe DiSanto, by the way. I'm an independent CFO and business consultant. I actually spent most of my career in Los Angeles building a few multi-million-dollar businesses, and I've since semi-retired, and now I help other businesses and individuals manage their money and plan better for their future. So if you're interested in small business, personal finance, and real estate advice, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Hello again. Okay, if you can see my screen, which you should be able to, we're looking at Quicken Mac here. We are going to be connecting some accounts. So I already have a few accounts in this sample file, FYI, so you might see some stuff in there. But if you were starting anew, it would be blank, and you would pretty much have to set up some accounts to do anything. Now, FYI, when Quicken comes out of the box, one of the main default things that's in there that you don't kind of see until you get used to the program is that Quicken has a bunch of categories that are pre-set up for you. And Quicken's list of categories is like really super detailed, just minutiae. So I, over the years, have kind of created a set of categories that works for me. And if you watch my other videos on budgeting and so on, my Quicken categories line up with my budget. So I sell a template that you can start with when you're starting with Quicken that has my categories in it. So you won't have to come over here to this window, this categories window, and edit them after the fact. So just FYI there. And also I do offer one-on-one Quicken help. You can book calls by the hour on my website. So if you want some help, go over there and check it out. It's under the coaching tab on the main menu. Okay, so now that we get that out of the way, let's get going here. I'm going to connect two accounts. I have multiple accounts in my bank, but I'm going to connect two of them that that I don't use all that often, so there won't be endless amounts of transactions, but there'll be enough to illustrate this whole thing. My bank is Bank of America, but obviously Quicken here offers a handful of banks right out of the gate. And again, if you didn't notice it, I'm hitting the plus sign here, which is add account. You could also go here and go add account, and the same thing would happen. Quicken, by the way, you can do any one thing multiple ways, which is, I like that because you can kind of use it in the way that best suits your brain. Some people want total simplicity in this kind of program, and Quicken's definitely not like a simple program. It's very deep. It's pretty much professional level accounting. I mean, it's not considered professional because it does sort of break some of the basic tenets of double entry accounting, but functionality-wise, I mean, it does everything you would ever want it to do, and honestly more, in some ways, than like a QuickBooks. That's why I use it for my personal finances, which include my personal business, consulting corp, personal bank accounts, checking accounts, brokerage accounts. I track all my real estate in it. It's my jam. Okay, so back to the bank. So I'm going to choose Bank of America here, and you could choose one of these other ones. However, you might not see your bank, right? So you can start typing in here if you don't see your bank. Like if you are at USAA, for example, you start typing in, and you'll see USAA. Now this is kind of a good example. Some banks, actually I'm going to use Bank of America. Like if I get rid of this, you can choose Bank of America here. It has this Bank of America -Quicken. But if I put in Bank of America here, you're going to notice that there's like a bunch of selections. And honestly, depending on what bank you type in there, you might see a bunch of things and then get confused. And I think that's for a couple reasons. One, Quicken's a really old program. It's been around for like 40 years. They've been doing bank connections for most of that time. So these entries here, I call them connection points. These are different, servers or different ways, routes, I guess you could say, for Quicken to connect to whichever bank. And in addition to different connection points, Quicken uses now a couple of different types of connections. The more recent of which is what I call an API connection, where Quicken connects with your bank kind of on the back end and doesn't go in the front end with your user and login. Hence, it doesn't have to save your user and login in the software. So most major banks are on that. But some of the other banks, the smaller banks, credit unions, they're still using the older method, which is kind of you put in your user and password. Quicken saves your user and password in the password vault. And then whenever it goes to an update, it goes and uses your user and password. Back to this, so there's a bunch of Bank of America connections, and honestly, a few of these will work. This one will work, the Quicken one. This one, Bank of America, all other states will work. Some of these other ones, though, are like if you had a Bank of America health savings account, you would have to use this connection point. If you were going in for like on your regular Bank of America login, most people, if you have Merrill accounts, you can see them there. But if you want to connect your Merrill accounts to Quicken and have all the interaction, you would have to connect through Bank of America Wealth Management. In this case, I'm just going to go with the standard offering here from the front page, and I'm going to click Bank of America. Now what it's going to do, because I was mentioning this is the newer type of connection, it's actually going to open up a browser. Then after we log in, we're going to come to a page where we give consent to Quicken to connect to Bank of America, and then the process will continue. So I'm going to cut to that consent page so you don't see me putting in all my login info. Okay, so this is the consent page that comes up. Essentially, you say by clicking, I'm sharing my data. Yes, share my data. This comes up, your accounts have been authorized successfully. Cool, please wait while we contact Bank of America. Now we get this window which is asking us which accounts we want to add. So in this case, I have a few accounts connected to this user and login. I'm only going to connect one for this example. So I'm going to connect to this guy here, and it's a checking account. And there's an option here to add as new, okay? And that, if you're just starting out and you've never put anything in Quicken, this is the only option you're going to choose. It's basically saying, hey, connect this account to Quicken, but also set the account up in Quicken as an account. And under here you can say, hey, put it under my personal and put it on my business. I'm just going to put it under my business. And then you can choose, is it a checking, a savings, or whatever. Usually this choice will actually be made for you. Quicken will recognize if it's a checking or a savings, in which case this is a checking. And then I guess the other point I wanted to make was, if you happen to have stuff in Quicken already, like for example, you've been using Quicken for a while and periodically the connection to your bank will drop out and you have to reconnect it. If you reconnect, Quicken will give you the opportunity to kind of connect this connection to an existing account and it'll pick up where you left off. So if I were doing that, I might say, hey, no, this is not a new account. I've already been using Quicken. I just need to reconnect the bank connection to this account that I already have in the system. But in this case, we're going to connect it as new and continue. Okay, now we got this. We're saying that account has been added. So we're going to hit finish. Now, if you go over here, because we added it as new, it actually added this account in Quicken the software as an account and then downloaded a whole bunch of transactions, okay? So we'll talk about this in a sec. I'm going to go actually connect one more account really quick. You don't have to watch that. We'll cut it out. And that way I can show you just a couple of good initial things to be thinking about when you're doing this process. So stand by. Okay, I'm back. So I have two accounts here. And I have a bunch of transactions. Like these two accounts for me don't have a ton of transactions in it. Like this one, by the way, has 29 items. This one has 409. So what I wanted to talk about is a couple basic things. I'm going to do another video kind of walking you through how to categorize and get a little more deeper into, like, you know, the next step from here. But there's a couple critical decisions you make at this point. As you can see, this account has gone back 18 months. That's pretty common. That's for Bank of America. I believe they go back 18 months in terms of download. I think Chase goes back 2 years. Some banks only go back 6 months, some go back 2 months. I bring this up because this is a point at which you have to decide how far back do you want to go when you start Quicken. I often say in videos, like, I recommend people start using Quicken in January, and they go back to January 1st. You know, so they're only dealing with 2 or 3 weeks of transactions at a given time, and it helps make setting up Quicken easier and your learning process easier, because there are a handful of things that if you knew them, they would make this process easier. I'm going to talk about some of them, but a lot of people decide to use Quicken because they're trying to get last year's taxes done and they're trying to get their stuff organized, and they said, I got to get some software, and they find Quicken, they find my videos, and they're like, all right, I got to go put a whole year's worth of stuff in. And that's totally doable. I help people do that all the time. It's just hard to do that when you haven't used Quicken before, because you're learning along the way. And when you're dealing with a year's worth of transactions for multiple accounts, you know, it can be thousands of transactions. These two accounts of mine I chose because honestly, I don't have that many in them, and I know that. Some people say to me, hey, I got to go back to the beginning of the year. Maybe it's November, and I'm trying to get my taxes done for the year that we're in, and I want to go back to January, you know. In which case, I often say, you know, hire me to help you, because it'll be faster and you'll hate it less. Some people are like, no, I don't need to go back to the beginning of the year. I don't have much going on. I just want to get started. And I'll say, in that case, go back, you know, to the beginning of the month you're in at least, so you at least have a month. So let's say we're going to go back a month, okay? In that case, we would actually we would come in here and delete everything before the month we were in. We can just highlight. We'll go back to October 1st, click, shift click, highlight, delete. And now you're starting, you know, from a month back. I'm going to undo that. Quicken Mac, by the way, has Command Z, undo. You can undo the last thing you did. That does not exist in the PC. It's awesome. I know it's a simple thing, and it's like, Joe, you're like pumping it because it has undo. I know, I agree. But anyway, the reason I undid that, though, is because I wanted to show you something. You might have noticed the first thing I clicked on here was an opening balance. So this is important. When Quicken goes to a bank and gets transactions, it says, hey, I'm going to go see what's available. Hey, they gave me 18 months of transactions. Great. But the account was open before that, right? So on November 5th, 2023, the account started that day with an opening balance, with a balance. And then from that day forward, all this stuff happened, and that leads down to today's online balance, okay? Which is this. We always want Quicken's balance, which is noted here as today's balance. We want those two things to equal each other, right? We want Quicken to reflect reality. So if I go in here and delete all those transactions again, along with the opening balance, what's going to happen is my Quicken balance, today's balance, is going to be completely different. Look, it's negative, but if you're like, but wait, why is it negative? Because the online balance says 1730. Well, it's because we deleted that opening balance. So what we're going to do is we're going to enter in, we could do it on 9/30/24, open balance, and I don't know, whatever. Well, I'll tell you this. We don't know exactly what it is. You have to go in and figure that out. You can do that by going into your online banking and seeing what the balance was on that day if your online banking shows information that way. Or we can do the reverse math. We know that today's bank balance is $1730.42. Currently, our register balance is $4339.88. If I add those together, copy that, put that in here, not negative, positive. Our online balance now matches today's balance. So I'm going to go over that again in that download and categorize transaction thing, but I wanted to get that to you just so you can understand, like, all right, I got to decide how far I want to go back, essentially how painful do I want this process to be, not too painful, so only go back a month. And I got to adjust my opening balance so my register, that's called the register, is in balance with the bank. Okay, that is connecting accounts and just some of the basic information around that process. Probably the next video you want to watch is after you connect the accounts and you get this initial download, going through and talking. I'm going to go through and talk about the categorization. I'll probably cover the transfer thing yet again in there and show you different ways to recategorize things in bulk, like more quickly than just kind of going through one by one and changing the category. All right, hope that was helpful. I will see you in the next one.